Good evening, and thank you for keeping it TV 47. You're just in time for the other episode of Body Garage here on TV 47 with I, Sheila Chelangat. Now, yesterday, the world commemorated the World Cancer Day. And so tonight, we continue the conversation as we handle now cancer screening and management. And tonight, in studio with me is Dr. Martin Kuria. How are you, Daktari?
I'm very good.
You keeping well?
Very good.
Yes. Now, when we talk about cancer screening, it's a big word. First, why should I not fear, the word cancer screening, and why should I not fear being screened?
Okay. I think that's a very good question. First of all, thank you for having me. And probably we need to start from what is cancer.
Yes.
So that we come to the reason why we need to do cancer screening. So cancer, simply put, is just an outgrowth of cells, because we understand the whole body is actually made up of cells. Now, these cells, which are the units which make up every organ that is in our body, now the growth of our cells, in essence, is what causes our body to grow and develop. Now, that growth and development of our cells is normally regulated by things that we call genes, and more specific DNA, which is actually found within our cells. Now, whenever there is some dysregulation in the way our cells grow, that's the origin of cancer. And therefore, this big name, because I know it has actually been scaring quite a number of people for the few years that it has been with us, that is cancer. So it's all about, cells overgrowing, or the body lacking a mechanism to regulate how cells are growing within the body.
Yes.
Now that leads to the more than 100 different types of cancers that can develop within the human body. So having said that, now I want to come to your question on cancer screening.
Yes.
Because we understand, even as we commemorate the World Cancer Day, now the world is actually at a time when cancer now is becoming a very big health burden. Currently, as we are speaking, in Kenya, cancer is becoming the third leading cause of death.
Yes.
And worldwide is actually the second leading cause of death. So that's why international bodies that deal with health, whether it's WHO, now are finding it very, very important now for us to get a way of controlling cancer as a disease. And there is no other better way of controlling cancer other than screening.
Yes.
So screening is a way of trying to detect that a certain person is having cancer way ahead of them having signs and symptoms, or what in the medical field we call clinical manifestations. And the reason why it's so important for each and every person, and here we are talking about not just the old people.
Yes.
We are talking about a human being in any age group, right from childhood right all the way to the very elderly, is actually a requirement for you to be doing a cancer screening. Okay, specific to the type of cancer which is more likely, to develop at your age group.
Yes.
At least once every 2 years.
Yes.
Because that's the one most best way of trying to detect whether you have any cancer growth within your body as early as possible, so that as clinicians we can be able to start the journey of trying to manage and treat cancer. Yes.
But even before we go to, someone actually considering to get a screening, perhaps, Daktari, you could remind us, what are some of the risk factors that can lead to cancer?
Okay, thank you. So I think there are so many risk factors that lead to cancer in general. So first of all, we have agreed we have more than 100 different types of cancers that affect the human body. Definitely there are those which are more prevalent than others. As we speak, the 4 leading type of cancers within our country that's Kenya. So we have breast cancer and cervical cancer for the ladies. And then we have prostate cancer and also what we call esophageal cancer for the male. Now, those four take up around 50% of all the cases of cancers that we have within our country. So we normally say in general, what causes cancer? And I want to start with what causes before I come to the risk factor.
Yes.
Cancer is caused by genetic mutations. You see, we said within our cells, we normally have what we call genes. Now, these genes, or what people could also call DNA, is what controls cell division within our body, because cells need to divide for your body to be able to grow. So the DNA or the genes that we have inside our cells can undergo something called mutation. So mutation is more or less a genetic breakdown. So it's a process that, you know, makes the way genes work or DNA works now to fail. When that happens, then now that's where cancer starts. So all that we classify as risk factors for cancer, indirectly, they are the causes of genetic mutations. So I would want to look at the leading risk factors for cancer. So first of all, we normally say there are chemicals called carcinogens. Carcinogens is just one word for all the various chemicals, you know, which can actually cause cancer. But the biggest known risk factors for cancer, first and foremost, is what we call family history or genetic predisposition. And we normally say this, just to simplify for our viewers, that in case you have a history of cancer within your family, and more so your first degree relatives. So here we are talking about either your parent or any of your sibling, so having had cancer, then there is a likelihood, not that you must get cancer, but there is a likelihood that you may also get cancer. So, and that's one of the reasons as to why you need, you know, frequent screening for you to be able to detect if there is any cancer cells that are actually growing within your body. So that is genetic predisposition. Then we also have the second one about what we call smoking and alcohol intake. More so in the context of our country, based on the four cancers I already talked about. Smoking and alcohol intake is a big, big risk factor for getting cancers. In fact, for smoking, we say worldwide, 70% of the cancers that we have in our body, you know, originate from carcinogens that come from tobacco use or tobacco smoking. So that's a very big risk factor. Then we also have what we call obesity or being overweight. Now that's becoming a very big risk factor, more so in this day and age of sedentary lifestyle, more so within our urban areas, although right now it's prevalent even within the rural areas, whereby we have really changed our lifestyle. So we are not doing as much exercise as we are supposed to be doing. So what normally happens, because I've had patients, you know, trying to get to terms as to how, you know, obesity or overweight can actually cause cancer. The moment you have too much weight, what happens is you introduce something called inflammation into the body. So when you are obese, so your body, we normally say, is always in a state of constant inflammation. So inflammation over a long period of time will actually now start causing genetic changes within your cells, which will later on now predispose you to different types of cancers, whether it is breast cancer, whether it is prostate cancer. You know, being overweight or being obese is actually a big risk factor. Then another one which is also very, very key is also diet. So diet is also a big risk factor for cancer. And when I talk about diet, I mean a diet, I'll say what it doesn't have rather than what it has.
Yes.
Because, you know, in the present day lifestyle, we have more bad food than the good food. So lack of or a poor intake of vegetables, fruits, and fiber is actually a leading cause of cancer. Because in the food that we eat, there are two types of nutrients that we can get that either can contribute or can avoid you from getting cancer. So if you eat the right type of food, that is a diet rich in vegetables, green vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and plant-based food, then you get what we call antioxidants from that diet. Antioxidants are actually chemicals which help to fight cancer cells. While on the other hand, now the poor diet, that is diet that is rich in refined sugar, you know, red meat, processed meat, and also carbohydrates, that one is more likely to cause cancer rather than prevent you from getting cancer. Yes.
Okay, Daktari, and with that said now, since we now have understood some of the risk factors, now let's go back to the cancer screening.
Yes.
What exactly does it entail when I decide that, you know, let me take myself for a screening? What should I look, you know, be prepared to get through?
Okay. Thank you so much. I think because we are talking, actually the theme for this World Cancer Day is more towards, you know, we are unified by being unique.
Yes.
That is, you know, we need the whole, you know, society to have a better look at cancer as a disease. Because the projections are that by 2028, this country, right now we have around 27,000 people dying annually due to cancer. So those numbers are likely to skyrocket to around 58,000. And that's quite a big number of people. Now, bearing in mind there are people who never get into the statistics books and they still die of cancer. So screening is very, very key. And we are really, you know, for people to go for screening. So when I decide to go for screening, now whether male or female, because there are certain cancers which are more gender specific. Like when you talk about cervical cancer, which is one key problem within our country. So that's totally for females. And here we are talking about the age group between 9 to around 15 years. That's the one that is actually targeted. Although a female at any age can walk to a health facility, you know, to do screening for cervical cancer. So first of all, there are some misinformed, you know, ideas about screening, and probably that has brought about the low, you know, number of people who normally come to the hospitals for screening, because most people would actually imagine, first of all, that it is costly, that it would involve interventions, and at one time it may also involve you being admitted in a hospital.
Yes.
So one thing you need to be aware is screening, first of all, is very friendly. In the sense that most of the screening tests that we are currently doing for the most common cancers, most of those 4. And here I'll be more specific with cervical cancer, breast cancer, and also prostate cancer.
Yes.
Because those are the 3 cancers which, you know, there is a lot of screening going on. So the screening tests, even where we involve a blood test, like in prostate cancer, we do the PSA test. It's actually a very simple test that will just take you a small needle prick. Then we get a very small blood sample from you, which we take to the lab, and then we're able to give you results, probably nowadays even the same day. So within a couple of minutes, at most an hour or 2, you have your results.
So it doesn't mean that I would come and stay the whole day in hospital?
No, you'll not stay the whole day in hospital. And again, it's not costly. I think the government has really come in handy to try and subsidize the cost of most of these screening tests. And they're becoming more affordable for majority of the Kenyan population. So I think the fear that it might be costly is no longer there. And we will encourage people to really come, for screening. You don't need to prepare yourself to come for admissions or to come with any equipment. We just need you as a person.
As a person.
And then we'll be able to do the screening.
Okay, Daktari, thank you for that. We would like to take our first commercial break. When we will be back, we will get to know now what next after getting the results from the screening. Do not go too far. Keep it TV 47. But first, take a look at some of our myths and facts of the day. Cancer is contagious. Cancer is not contagious and cannot spread from person to person, except in rare cases of organ transplants. Family history of cancer means you'll get cancer. Family history doesn't guarantee you'll get cancer. Most cancers are caused by mutations that happen during a person's lifetime.